Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to head over to Hong Kong once again, and we're going to return to a brewery that's featured on the channel a couple of times before. I've had some really nice beers from these guys over the last couple of years, a good few different styles, and if people were to ask me about this brewery, I would say that they are just very solid all round. They're quite prolific, they do lots of different styles, and they seem to be very well thought of, so that's never a bad mix. But the beer we're going to have a look at today is actually one that I've tried before, albeit that was in an out and about video, which you'll see published a little bit later on. But I know this one is very nice. It's a style that I very much enjoy, but one that you don't see all that often these days, unfortunately. And it's one of the first Hong Kong brewed examples of this style, I believe, that I've tried as well. So needless to say, I'm very curious to try this beer again and see what it's all about. Hopefully it's as good as I remember, hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, like I said, we're going to return to Hong Kong. We're going to go to Pho Tan, which is to the northeast of Kowloon, the city across the water from Hong Kong Island, and that means that we're going to have a look at yet another beer from Carbon Brews. So this particular beer is called Black to the Future. It comes in at 8.5% ABV, and this one is a black double IPA. So yeah, like I said, I tried this beer when I visited Carbon Brews tap room in central in Hong Kong. I still need to get the out and about video that I filmed there published and edited together and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, I know this one was very good, and then I saw a can of this one when I was on my way through Hong Kong again on the way home, actually, and decided that I would buy one of these and do a proper sit-down review of it. But I have to say, I do like the name of this one and the artwork and stuff, and that was one of the other reasons that I decided to go for it. But if you've watched the channel for any length of time, you'll know that I'm a huge fan of black IPAs, particularly the double black IPAs. So yeah, very curious to try this one again and see what it's all about. So, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Carbon Brews before, and we will no doubt add more to that list in the near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated, and remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So yeah, just go into the channel homepage, use the little search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that though, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the Hong Kong playlist along with a number of other things. That's going to be added to whenever I get the chance in the future, but probably not for a wee while, I would think. But yeah, you can check out the playlist of beers from other countries and territories as well. But yeah, since this is a Hong Kong beer review, two shout outs. One to my good friend Luigi Corraduzza of Luigi Drinks. He's got a lovely kind of feed both on Facebook and Instagram, where he tries lots of different beers from across the world. Lovely guy, and he will feature in some of the out and about videos that you'll see a little bit later on. And of course, a shout out to the guys at HK Brewcraft as well, where this beer was purchased. So yeah, let's go on and tell you a little bit about Carbon Brews then. So as I've mentioned to you already, Carbon Brews are based in Pho Tan in the New Territories to the northeast of Kowloon on the peninsula of Hong Kong, just in the southern part of China. And this brewery was founded back in 2018, and it can be found on both the first and the 10th floor of the Union Industrial Centre in Pho Tan in the New Territories. Like I said, just to the northeast of Kowloon City. But this was previously the Hong Kong brewery of Kyuchi Brewery from Ibaraki in Japan, who were brewing their Hitachino Nest beers there, and they established this facility originally back in 2015. But the general manager for the brewery is Chris Wong. He was previously an accountant by trade and also co-founded HK Brewcraft and Heroes Beer Company, while he also worked for Hitachino's Hong Kong brewing operations. But essentially, the Kyuchi Brewery decided to withdraw from this facility, and so Carbon Brews basically took over the brewery in late 2018, and Carbon Brews was the new brand that was established by Chris for this brewery. But the brewery operates a 35 hectolitre brew kit, and the current head brewer is Dias Jumashev, and he's joined in the brewing team by Justin Chan, Lydia Kuzmina, Harry Liu, and also Tommy Liu as well. But these days they've got a tap room in Central on Hong Kong Island, and then they've got another bar in Akasaka in Tokyo as well. So that is somewhere that I'll need to visit the next time I get back to Tokyo. It's been a wee while since I've been there actually. But as of June 2023, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced around 130 different kinds of beer according to Untappd. And as I said to you earlier, these guys are very well rounded. They do lots of different styles, some really nice lager beers, quite a few different kinds of IPAs, New England hazies, West Coast black IPAs, and all these kind of things. But yeah, they also do a bunch of big imperial stouts and things like that. The last beer we reviewed from these guys on the channel, in fact, was a really interesting imperial stout aged on Amburana wood. So yeah, you can always trust Carbon Brews to do something a little bit unusual. I did actually meet Lydia when I was out on the Hong Kong craft beer crawl with Luigi when I was there a couple of months back, and that was really, really fun actually. But yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about Carbon Brews for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's go on then and actually have a little look at the beer itself. So just to let you have a little look at the artwork on this one before we open it up. You can see this is really nice. There's the Carbon Brews symbol there. So I think it's cool, but yeah, you can see the kind of tyre trails from the DeLorean on the artwork there, which I think is very, very cool. As we said, call it Black to the Future, comes in at 8.5% ABV, a black double IPA, plain silver top on the can here. And one of the cool things about the Carbon Brews beers is that they do tell you the malt base and hops that they use in the beer. So let's just have a little look at this. So in the malt base here, you've got pale malt, Carafa Special, roasted barley, chocolate wheat, Cara Red, oats, and some Munich malt. So very, very good mix. And the hops in this one are Columbus, Amarillo, Citra, Simcoe, and Idaho 7. So all of these hops are American, of course. Columbus is about 12% alpha acid. It's known for that big spicy floral component. Amarillo is about 12% alpha acid as well, a big oily orange zesty type thing. Simcoe, 12% alpha acid again, and it gives you a kind of soft passion fruity note, although in black IPAs it can give you quite a bit of red fruity character. Citra often gives you a good little bit of grapefruit, but quite a nice little bit of kind of juicy mango and sometimes lemon lime. And then Idaho 7 is known for its very soft tropical fruity notes such as like mango, papaya and apricots and stuff like this. So yeah, it is quite nice actually. But yeah, like we said, 8.5% black double IPA this one. Let's get it out into the glass and see what it's all about. Really looking forward to this. So, yeah, here we are. So, there you go. This does look very nice, I have to say. And it's poured pretty much as you would expect of a black IPA, to be honest with you. So, you can see that this beer is poured with just under a finger of a frothy, I would say kind of medium fawn head, this one. Nice little bit of medium-sized bubbles on the surface of the liquid there, but it gets a little bit more foamy the further up that you go, and you can see a few little kind of bumpy things in this one as well. So I'll just let you guys have a little look at the bubbles on the top of the head there. But as you can see, and as you would expect, the beer's poured a lovely kind of dark Coca-Cola, Pepsi colour, this one, a dark ebony I guess we could say, to be honest with you. If we shine the light through it, it does have a little bit of that Coca-Cola coloured edge to it, but it looks very nice. So remember, the colour of your beer depends on a few things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is also going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. But any barrel aging that you do or adjuncts you put into the beer will affect the colour of it as well, but you don't often have to care about that when it comes to IPAs, especially black IPAs, of course. But most of the colour in this one, I would think, will be coming from the presence of Carafa. Carafa is, of course, a trademarked malt from Germany, from the Weyermann Company in Bamberg in Franconia in northern Bavaria. Beautiful malt actually, but it works very, very well in black IPAs. Not too much in the way of visible carbonation in this one, just one or two big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass and a few little ones going up toward the bottom of the head there, and the head has incidentally faded away to be a nice kind of thin foamy layer. But overall, it does look very, very nice actually. Yeah, you've got a nice little bit of haziness to this beer as well, which is likely to come from the oats. Was there a bit of wheat in this one as well? Yeah, it's got chocolate wheat in it. So yeah, the kind of haziness that you get out of this beer will be due to the presence of the oat and the wheat. And this is one thing we should also say about black IPAs. Back in the day, these beers were always made of only barley malt, but in more recent times, and I think this is with the advent of the New England hazy IPAs, you have got black IPAs too, which have a little bit of this haze to them. So for me, there are the kind of old school West Coast type black IPAs, but you've also got, which tend to have a little bit more sweetness in the malt base, but you also have the more kind of New England hazy type black IPAs too, which tend to be a little bit more kind of bready and toasty and stuff like this. So that's also worth bearing in mind with this one. But yeah, it certainly looks the part of a black IPA. There's nothing overly surprising about the appearance. Let's have a wee look at the aroma of this one then and just see what it's all about. Yeah, aroma wise, this is just absolutely lovely. I remember this beer in my out and about video having a really nice aroma, and it certainly hasn't disappointed. One of the things I always used to say about this style until I got a bit more familiar with it was that I always thought the Imperial or the double black IPAs were a bit better than the singles. But it just depends. I personally like a little bit of sweetness in these beers. I like it to have a little bit of kind of brown sugar along with the toastier malts. But straight away with this beer you can smell that this beer does have a wee touch of sweetness to it. But it gives you everything you want. You've got a bit of roastiness in there, a bit of sweetness, you've got a nice little bit of kind of green component, and you've got the lovely oily fruits coming out of this one. But beautiful smelling beer. Let's just break it down and describe it for you a wee bit more in depth before we actually taste the thing. So the backbone of this beer, you absolutely have a little bit of that roasty, toasty, well-fired black bread crust in this one, but that takes a bit of a back seat. On top of that, you get a little bit of a kind of sweeter, rye bready bread crust. For me, there's a lot of kind of rye bready character in this one, but the brown rye bready character comes across as being, you know, a little bit more kind of caramelized and stuff like that. So yeah, you have this nice kind of caramelized type aroma coming out of the beer, which I think goes together really, really well. So yeah, nice oily caramelized kind of brown sugary note out of this one, and then on top of that, kind of oily caramelised rye bready character, you start to get a wee bit more of a kind of wholemeal brown bready character coming out of this one. And you can smell this, that the brown bready character is actually quite sweet, and I think this will be because they've used a lot of German malt in this one. I've always found that the bready character you get from German malt tends to be very, very sweet. So yeah, kind of caramelised, almost rye bready character in this one. Then above that you've got the sweeter wholemeal brown bread, and then you get a wee bit of white bread above that as well, which all goes together very, very nicely actually. But yeah, the aroma of this beer for me I think is just is really very nice. It gets a big thumbs up from me, as I've said. Yeah, above the bready character then you do get a little mix of brown sugar. There's a bit of a kind of sweet toasty caramelly sort of thing in this one. So yeah, nice little bit of kind of McVitie. Yeah, you've got a little bit of that toasty brown sugary character in this one, but yeah, the way that this one goes together is quite interesting. So yeah, nice little bit of kind of toasty brown sugary character in this one. Above that you have a little bit more of a kind of straight up sweet caramel, and I'm also getting little elements of like a Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy sort of thing, and there's definitely wee bits of like McVitie's digestive biscuity character to this beer too, which I find really interesting. So yeah. But yeah, the beer, this is definitely one of, smell this again, it is definitely one of the kind of sweeter, it definitely comes across as one of the sweeter black IPAs that I can ever remember having. But yeah, I really like this one, and it gets a big thumbs up from me on the malty side of the aroma. So yeah, it's good stuff. In terms of the hoppy side of things then, let's have a wee look at this green component first. yeah, so on the hoppy side of things, in the back of the nose you do have a little bit of earthiness out of this one, but then other than that you've got quite an oily, you do actually have quite an oily floral aromaticity to the beer, which I think comes across really, really well. So yeah, bit of earthiness, a little bit of nice oily floral aromaticity, and you've also got that bit of kind of grassiness coming out of this one too. So a nice little bit of a kind of zesty, kind of bright grassy character to the beer. So yeah, the green component in this one for me overall is quite oily, but I think that goes together very, very well actually. The Columbus is giving you a little bit of that kind of spicy floral aromaticity, but not too much. Like I say, the whole thing comes across as being very, very oily. But let's look at the fruity side of things then, just to round off the aroma. So one of the things that really stands out about this beer to me, one of the things you will actually notice with this one is when you sugar the beer up, you get like this dry kind of floury bread crusty character just coming out of the beer, and I think that goes together very, very nicely. So yeah, nice kind of dry bread crusty note to this one, but then on top of that, yeah, on top of that you get a really nice kind of I would say you do get just a little bit more of a kind of dry McVitie's digestive biscuity note. But we'll go back to the fruitiness. Like I said, we were going to focus on that. For me, the dominant fruity character in this one is quite orangey. I mean, the Amarillo really jumps out of this beer, to be honest with you. But other than that, you can smell there is a little bit of a kind of tropically mangoey note to this one. But then you have like juicy red fruits in there. There's a little bit of plum and a little bit of raisin and prune and stuff like this. But yeah, this beer really is quite oily and zesty and orangey for me, with quite a lot of mangoey character as well. So yeah, like I say, the way this beer goes together is pretty interesting from that perspective, I have to say. Yeah, I do like how this beer goes together. I really do. Really interesting. Just a really interesting mix of stuff, to be honest with you. Yeah, aroma-wise, this one I think is really quite nice, so it gets a big thumbs up from me. Yeah, interesting stuff, I have to say. I really do like this one. Yeah, as I always say, take a wee bit of time to enjoy the aroma of these beers before you get stuck into them, because that's always half the experience. This was a lovely smelling black IPA, and it's got a lot of complexity to it as well, just because of how many malts and hops and things are in this one. But I think we're going to get even more complexity to it in the flavour. But yeah, let's dive into this one then and see what it's all about. This one is the Black to the Future, an 8.5% black double IPA from Carbon Brews in Photan in the New Territories in Hong Kong. Let's get stuck in. Slàinte, Skål, cheers, Gambe. Yeah, that is pretty damn nice. One thing I will say is that it has a good little bit more kind of dryness and roastiness, and also smoothness to it than I thought it was going to have from the flavour. I thought this one was going to be a lot more kind of oily and things from the just based on the aroma. But yeah, this beer has everything you want from the black IPA. A bit of roastiness, a bit of smoothness and sweetness in the malt base. Also a good little bit of oily character as well. Nice little bit of hoppy bitterness, and then you've got the fruity notes coming out of it too. But a really, really lovely beer, this one. Yeah, this is really, really nice. So yeah, it gets a big, it does get a big thumbs up from me, this beer. I think it is really well done actually. But I wouldn't expect, based on what I've seen from Carbon Brews, and other times, like, it doesn't surprise me, to be quite honest with you. You know, I know these guys can do some very, very nice beers. Yeah, so on the just to kind of summarise the flavour of this beer, then we'll go through this. So middle third of your palate, you can feel the backbone of this beer. It's that roasty, toasty, well-fired bread crust in there, and it's, you know, you can tell this is the Carafa. Carafa has this distinctive dry bread crusty character, but it's not like too well-fired. So you can feel that it's definitely the kind of Carafa malt that's given you this nice roasty bread crusty backbone then. So as you move further forward on that middle third of your palate, then you can feel there's a wee bit of a more there's definitely a wee bit of a more kind of woody character coming out of this one. So yeah, nice little bit of a more kind of woody character coming out at the front half of that front third of your palate. Then you've got all the kind of bready layers. Just sitting on top of that there. So yeah, well-fired bread crust, little bit of woodiness there. Then you've got that more dense kind of rye bready character pushing its way out of the middle third of your palate. So yeah, you've got that nice dense kind of rye bready character in there, which just forms the backbone of the beer. So yeah, the well-fired kind of rye bready bread crust. The kind of, you've got the well-fired bread crust, the kind of dense rye bready layer, and the rye bread does actually have a little bit of an almost caramelised nature to it as well, actually. But then above that, you can feel a slightly lighter and more airy kind of wholemeal brown bready character. It does have a little bit of sweetness to it, I would say, as well, which is kind of interesting. And then yeah, above that you get a little bit more of a kind of white bready layer, and you can feel above the white bread you've got the wheat just kind of densifying the bready part of the beer out. But you can feel the wheat is quite dry. You know, it's was it chocolate wheat they said they put in this one? Yeah. So that kind of makes sense. You can get this nice dry, almost like cocoa powdery wheaty character just sitting above the bread. And yeah, the way that goes together, I think, is really quite nice. So yeah, for me, that goes together really, really quite well. That nice kind of, that nice kind of dry chocolatey wheat, and then above that, you can kind of feel a little bit of the oatiness going down the middle line of your palate there. So you can feel a little bit of the kind of smoother, creamy character from the oats. And as I've always said, when it comes to New England IPAs, for example, the oats usually give you a good indicator of how old your beer is. So there's a wee bit of that kind of going on in this one, but yeah, you can feel the kind of smooth oaty creamy character to this beer as well, but it is getting drier and drier, and of course the chocolate wheat and the black malts in this one are going to kind of dominate the flavour anyway. So that's an interesting point to make about this beer. But yeah, on the sweeter side of things, if you go to the dead centre of your palate, you can feel there's a little circle there which is a sweet sort of caramelly, it's a kind of sweet caramelly character for sure. But then above that you have you've got that sweet caramelly note in the middle of your palate. But then as you move further out from that, there's a bit of toastier brown sugar there, and then as you move out toward the edges of that middle third of your palate, that's when you get the more McVitie's digestive biscuity type character out of this beer. So again, that goes together very, very well in this one. Yeah, I do like that about this beer for sure. The complexity that you have in the middle third of your palate in this beer is really, really nice. And this is definitely one of the black IPAs that I've really enjoyed, I have to say. I think this one goes together very, very well, and it has a nice balance between that more kind of New England type black IPA and the more kind of West Coasty one that I was talking about before. So yeah, in terms of the how would we say, the the middle third of the palate, I think that's everything we need to see. Let's go to the back third of the palate then. So as I've often said about the back third of the palate, you get the same types of flavour on the back third of the palate, but they just come out in different kind of intensities, I guess we could say. So the border region between middle and back third of your palate, again, you get a little bit of a kind of bready build up in there, a mix of white bread and brown bread and things, so you can feel that there. But the base of that back third of your palate, you can feel that the kind of well-fired, dry, bread crusty character, it is drier, it is more bitter there. Then above that, you've got the more kind of rye bready character to the beer as well, which I think is really nice. So you can feel that slightly more dense rye bready character, and yeah, it does even feel just a little bit lighter and more airy, but still drier than it did in the middle third of the palate. Then you've got the wholemeal brown bready character, which again is lighter and airy, but still drier than the white bready character. And then above that, you can feel the wheaty notes there. It's quite. It does have a bit of bitiness to it, but yeah, you can feel that kind of dry, you know, almost toasty, charred chocolate, cocoa nibby character just sitting on top of everything else up there. So that's really interesting as well, actually. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, flavour-wise, this one does go together really well in the middle and the back third of the palate. But above everything else on the back third of the palate, you start to get some of the yeasty notes out of the beer. So for me, there's a little bit of a more dense, wholemeal, brown bready type character in there. It's kind of wrapped in honeycomb. I always get honeycomb on the back third of the palate for some reason. But yeah, you've got a woody, crackery, dense, farmhousey, bready note in there, which, as I say, I think goes together very well. But you can definitely feel that on the back third of the palate, the flavour is definitely taller. Then as you move further forward into the middle third of your palate, it just kind of condenses down and squashes together a little bit more. So yeah, the way this beer goes together, I think, in that sense, is very, very nice, and it gets a thumbs up from me. Yeah, I think that covers the malty and yeasty side of the beer. Let's go to the hoppy side of things then. So, back corners of the palate then in this beer, you do get a nice little bit of earthiness in this one for sure. As you move further forward, you get a little bit of herbal character, and as you push toward the kind of front corners of the palate, you've got a more floral aromatic sort of thing coming out of this one. So yeah, nice big floral aromaticity in there. It doesn't quite have the spiciness that you might expect of Columbus. It's actually a little bit more kind of oily. But yeah, nice little bit of earthiness in there, a little bit of herbal character, and as I say, a little bit more floral aromatic note toward the kind of front corners of your palate there. So that comes out really nicely. Round the front curve of the tongue, you've got a little bit of a lighter grassy component to this one, which does have a wee bit of oiliness in there. But yeah, I think this beer really does go together quite well in that sense. Yeah, I like that about this one. I really do like how this beer kind of pieces together, actually. Yeah, so in terms of the green component then, I think this just adds a little bit more depth to the beer. So the border region between front third and middle third of your palate, again, you get a nice little bit of bready build up in this one, which is really good. So yeah, nice little bit of kind of it's a mix of rye bread and brown bread in there, but the base of that front third of the palate, as I say, you've got a bit more of a kind of roasty, toasty, well-fired bread crust there. Then you've got the rye bread and a bit of the brown bread, and then you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy, fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. So we'll look at those fruity esters now. And for me, this beer, it really is very orangey. I think it really is quite fair to describe this beer as being very, very orangey. So for me, at the back of that front third of the palate, you've got a wee bit more of a kind of, you do get a little bit more of a kind of punchy grapefruit out of this one for sure. So that's going to come from the citra, I think. And as you move further forward, you get little bits of kind of juicy mango and stuff in there. But because of the fact that you've got a black, a darker malt base in this one, means that these fruity tropical hops are behaving quite differently. Simcoe is a very good example of this. Simcoe can give you some really nice kind of blackberry, black curranty notes when you put it into a black malt base. So you've got a bit of grapefruit in there, you've got a bit of plum, a bit of raisin and stuff like this, and some nice kind of blackberry, black curranty notes, and a bit of fig as you reach the middle of that front third of your palate. But you do have a little remnant of a kind of mango-y, passion fruity sort of thing, as we say. But then moving further forward into the front half of that front third of your palate, you do get more of a kind of oily, you do get a little bit more of that kind of oily tangerine orange coming out of this one, which again I think goes together very, very well. So for me, the fruity side of things in this beer is really nice, but it's the Amarillo, I think, that dominates the flavour in this one, like the Citra, the Idaho 7 and the Simcoe. Is there any other ones in this one? It's just the Columbus, but yeah, the Citra, Simcoe and Idaho 7 are all kind of blending together to give you the red fruity notes and the mango and stuff like this, but the Amarillo kind of stands out on its own a little bit more. I think that's definitely fair to say. But yeah, big oily, zesty, orangey fruit character to this one, which I quite enjoy. But yeah, overall, a really nice black double IPA, this one. And it covers its alcohol pretty well. So I think we can round off then with a wee look at the mouthfeel. For me, this beer is kind of pushing the top end of mid-body. The carbonation's quite smooth. It's got a mainly oily mouthfeel, I would say. Yeah, nice kind of oily mouthfeel to this one, but it's got a good little bit of it does give you a little bit more dryness and bitterness the further into the aftertaste you go. In terms of the IBU count in this beer, I don't find this one madly bitter, to be honest with you. It's not going to blow the head off you in terms of bitterness, either from the hoppy side of things or from the malty side of things, but the bitterness does build into the aftertaste, and you get more of the kind of floral spiciness from the Columbus, and also a bit of the kind of roasty, toasty bitterness from the Carafa malt in this one. So it's got to be maybe about 60-ish. I think this could give you about a sort of 60-ish IBU count on this one. But as I say, you've got a nice kind of you've got the bread crusty character in this one, that nice kind of roasty, toasty, well-fired bread crust, the smooth bread in the middle, and then above that you've got the sweeter sort of brown sugary type thing with this one too, which is really very, very nice. So yeah, I like the roasty well-firedness. The kind of bready characters that are in there are also very nice, and you've also got a good little bit of a kind of, as I say, a bit of a toasty brown sugary note, but also a sweeter brown sugary character as well. So yeah, the malt base is quite complex in this one, but I think it goes together very well. As we said earlier, the fruity character is mainly leaning toward a more oily, orangey, zesty character, but you do have wee bits of kind of red fruit and some tropical fruit in there as well. But yeah, the way everything goes together in this beer, I think, is really very, very nice. So it gets a big thumbs up from me. But yeah, I've really enjoyed this one, I have to say. It's nice to try this beer again, and I think it is as good as I remember. It may be a little bit better, actually, when it's mellowed out a wee bit more. But yeah, this one was the Black to the Future, an 8.5% black double IPA from Carbon Brews in Photan in the New Territories in Hong Kong. Really nice beer, this one, but that's kind of what I've come to expect of Carbon Brews. So yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Carbon Brews as well, and we will no doubt return to these guys once again at some point in the very near future. But until then, check out my social media, check out Carbon Brews social media, do check out my friend Luigi of Luigi Drinks as well, and I will see you guys in another review. We've got another 2 or 3 Hong Kong beers to have a look at over the next wee while, so I do hope that you enjoy those. But until then, Slange it, Skull, cheers, and see you guys in the next review.